The NFL is changing faster than ever, not just on the field, but in the rulebook. Every season, new regulations and tweaks spark debates among players, coaches, and fans alike. Some argue these rules make the game safer and more balanced, while others feel they're taking the physical edge and unpredictability out of football. Consider how the quarterback's protections have evolved over the past 2 decades. Hits that would have been clean and legal in the 1990s now draw penalties and fines. Pass interference rules are more strictly enforced. Replay reviews are expanded, and roughing the passer penalties are called with increasing frequency. All of these adjustments aim to shape the game. But the question remains, are we seeing a safer, fairer NFL, or a league that's over-controlled, where dominance and grit are harder to display? This debate isn't just academic. It affects how teams build rosters, how players train, and how fans experience the game. The physical intensity and unpredictability that once defined the NFL are being balanced against player safety and fairness. And that raises a critical question for viewers. Is this modern NFL an evolution for the better, or has it lost some of the edge that made football the ultimate test of toughness? NFL rules exist for three main reasons: safety, fairness, and consistency. The league aims to protect athletes from serious injury, maintain a level playing field, and create a predictable structure for competition safety rules like the targeting rule, which penalizes hits to the head and neck, and defenseless player protections, which limit dangerous contact against receivers and quarterbacks, have significantly reduced the risk of career-threatening injuries. Concussion protocols, which require medical evaluation before players can return to the game, have further prioritized long-term health, reflecting a growing understanding of the impact of head trauma in football. At the same time, rules are intended to maintain competitive integrity. Penalties, replay reviews, and uniform enforcement are designed to prevent unfair advantages, ensuring that games are decided by skill, strategy, and execution rather than rule manipulation. Yet balancing safety and fairness with the excitement and physicality that fans love is tricky. Too many protections can make the game feel sanitized, while too few put players at serious risk. The NFL's ongoing challenge is walking this fine line, creating a league that's both competitive and safe, while still preserving the essence of football's toughness and intensity. Over the past 2 decades, several rule changes have dramatically influenced how the NFL is played. Take the roughing the passer rule, for example. Today, defenders must be extremely careful when hitting quarterbacks. Even a slight hit to the head or neck area can result in a 15-yard penalty and an automatic first down. This change was largely implemented to protect quarterbacks from potentially career-ending injuries, but it has also shifted the balance in favor of offenses. Quarterbacks now have more time in the pocket, which has contributed to higher passing yards and record-breaking seasons across the league. Another major change is the defenseless player protection rule, which prohibits dangerous hits against players in vulnerable positions, such as receivers catching the ball or running backs being blocked while out of the play. While this has undeniably reduced serious injuries, critics argue it limits defensive aggression and changes how teams approach tackling. In fact, defensive coordinators now emphasize precision and technique over raw physicality, leading to more strategy-driven play rather than pure dominance on the field. The kickoff rule adjustments also illustrate how the league is shaping outcomes. In 2011, the NFL moved the kickoff from the 30-yard line to the 35-yard line and introduced rules encouraging touchbacks. This has reduced high-speed collisions and injuries, but has also decreased kickoff returns, arguably removing some of the excitement and unpredictability from special teams play. Even instant replay and review rules have influenced competition. Expanded replay options allow referees to overturn more calls, including pass interference, fumbles, and touchdowns. While intended to ensure fairness, replay can dramatically change the outcome of games, and some fans feel it interrupts momentum and undermines the human element of officiating. For example, the 2019 NFC Championship game saw controversial replay reviews that became a major talking point in how rule enforcement affects outcomes. Overall, these rules illustrate a key tension in the modern NFL. Protecting players and creating fairness has reshaped the game, often in ways that benefit offense and strategy, but reduce the traditional physical dominance that defined earlier eras. Fans and analysts now debate whether these changes make the game more competitive or simply over-controlled, leaving athletes with less room to assert dominance through sheer toughness. While some critics claim that NFL rules have over-controlled the game, there's a strong argument that these regulations actually provide significant advantages, both for player safety and competitive balance. One major advantage is career longevity. Quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have benefited from rules protecting passers from dangerous hits, allowing them to maintain elite performance well into their late 30s and early 40s. Without these protections, it's likely that injuries would have shortened their careers, reducing the opportunity to create records and legacies. Rules also help create parity across the league, which keeps competition tighter and more exciting. By enforcing penalties consistently and prioritizing player safety, smaller market teams can compete with historically dominant franchises. The NFL's salary cap and roster rules, paired with safety-focused regulations, ensure that no team can rely solely on physical domination to win. For example, while the New England Patriots thrived under Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, they would not have been able to maintain dominance indefinitely under modern parity rules. The league's structure encourages a wider distribution of talent, making more teams viable contenders each season. Additionally, these rules enhance offensive creativity and strategy. Protecting quarterbacks and receivers allows offenses to operate at higher efficiency, resulting in more scoring, highlight reel plays, and dynamic games. Patrick Mahomes, for instance, thrives in today's rule environment. His no-look passes and improvised throws are supported by defenses being constrained in how they can physically engage him. The same is true for other elite quarterbacks, whose ability to read the field and execute complex plays is amplified by rules designed to protect skill positions. Finally, safety and consistency rules make the game more appealing to a broader audience. Fans want excitement without seeing frequent catastrophic injuries, and teams want to invest in players knowing they will have sustainable careers. The combination of strategic innovation, competitive balance, and health protections arguably makes the modern NFL a smarter, more calculated game. One that rewards skill, preparation, and adaptability rather than relying purely on brute physical dominance. In short, rules designed to protect players and ensure fairness don't necessarily weaken the NFL. They can enhance the quality of competition and the longevity of elite athletes, creating a new kind of dominance that emphasizes skill and strategy over sheer physical force. While NFL rules offer advantages, critics argue that they have also over-controlled the game, sometimes at the expense of traditional toughness and competitive freedom. One key example is the roughing the passer and defenseless player rules, which have limited defensive aggression. Hits that were once legal and even celebrated are now penalized, creating an environment where defenders must hold back to avoid costly penalties. This has arguably changed the nature of defensive play, reducing the ability of elite defenders to dominate games through physicality alone. Another area of concern is penalty frequency and replay reviews. In recent years, penalties per game have steadily increased, with teams averaging more than 13 to 14 flags each contest. While intended to maintain fairness, this can disrupt the flow of games and undermine player control. High-profile instances, such as controversial pass interference calls overturned in playoff games, have sparked debate over whether referees now wield too much influence over outcomes. Critics argue that instead of letting players decide the game on the field, rule enforcement increasingly dictates it. Some argue that this over-control also affects athlete identity and preparation. Players are now trained to avoid certain types of contact, and defensive schemes are designed to minimize penalties rather than maximize dominance. Legendary teams of the past relied on toughness and intimidation as strategic tools. Today, those same tactics often result in penalties or fines. As a result, some fans feel the game has become safer but softer, prioritizing controlled play over the raw intensity that historically defined the NFL. Even innovations meant to increase fairness, such as overtime rule changes and altered kickoff rules, have sparked controversy. Critics argue that these changes reduce the unpredictability of game outcomes, giving teams more predictable scoring opportunities while limiting dramatic, high-risk plays. While safer and more structured, the game can feel constrained, leaving some fans nostalgic for eras where dominance was earned through sheer physical and mental fortitude. So what's the takeaway? Are NFL rules giving the game a much-needed advantage, or have they crossed the line into over-control? The truth is, it's a bit of both. On one hand, rules protecting quarterbacks, defenseless players, and overall safety have extended careers, increased competitive balance, and created opportunities for skill and strategy to shine. Players like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers are able to perform at elite levels longer than ever. In part because of these protections, offenses thrive, games are more predictable in fairness, and fans witness highlight reel plays that were previously too risky or rare. On the other hand, some rules have undeniably limited the physical intensity and traditional dominance that once defined the NFL. Defenders are restricted, penalties are more frequent, and replay reviews can swing outcomes in ways that sometimes feel artificial. The game has become smarter and safer, but for some, it's also a bit softer, less raw, less chaotic, and arguably less thrilling in moments that would have defined past dynasties.